Xiaomi just dropped 3 AI models at the same time. And honestly, the AI world is still trying to figure out what happened. We're talking about a model that secretly topped the global rankings for an entire week without anyone knowing it was Xiaomi. A multimodal model that can open a browser, browse reviews, haggle with customer service, and complete a purchase, all on its own. And a voice model trained on over 100 million hours of speech that sounds genuinely human, not robotic. And the crazy part is that most people still think of Xiaomi as a phone company. So let's talk about it. Alright, so on March 18th, Xiaomi's in-house AI team quietly pushed out 3 models at once. MiMo V2 Pro, which is the main brain for AI agents, MiMo V2 Omni, which can see, hear, and act all at the same time, and MiMo V2 TTS, a voice model that generates natural human speech from plain English descriptions. Together, these three form what Xiaomi is calling their full stack for the agent era. They are term for AI that doesn't just chat but actually goes out and does things in the real world. And the fact that they dropped all three on the same day signals that they are not just releasing a model, they are releasing a platform. That's a very different move from what most AI labs do. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Because before the official launch, something worried was happening on OpenRouter, one of the biggest platforms where developers can try different AI models. Starting March 11th, a mystery model showed up under the name Hunter Alpha. Nobody knew who made it. It had no company name, no branding, nothing. And within days, it climbed straight to the top of the daily usage charts. It passed 1 trillion total tokens used. Developers were going wild trying to figure out who built it. The most popular guess was that it was DeepSeek V4, which has been delayed because of how big the model is getting. When Xiaomi finally revealed the truth a week later, people couldn't believe it. Hunter Alpha was an early test build for MiMo V2 Pro. Xiaomi had basically run the world's largest blind developer test and won without anyone knowing that score was theirs. So let's get into the numbers because this is where it gets really serious. MiMo V2 Pro sits on a mixture of expert setup with over 1 trillion total parameters with 42 billion active per request. That's roughly 3 times the size of its last version, MiMo V2 Flash, which came out in December 2025. On the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, a well-known ranking that measures overall model intelligence, it landed somewhere around 7th or 8th globally depending on the snapshot. Leaderboards shift daily, and it's the top performing Chinese model after GLM5 and Minimax M2.7, putting it third among Chinese labs. On SWV Bench Verified, which is a hard coding test where models have to fix real software bugs, it hit 78%. Cloud Opus 4.6 sits at 80.8 and Cloud Sonnet 4.6 sits at 79.6. So MiMo V2 Pro is right there in that same group. On the Claw Eval, the agent benchmark that measures how well a model handles real multi-step tasks, it polled 61.5, landing third in the world. Cloud Opus 4.6 lays at 66.3. Cloud Sonnet 4.6 also sits at 66.3. And GPT 5.2 is at 50.0. And on Pins Bench, the other major agent test from the OpenClaw framework, it scored 81.0. Again, third in the world, right behind Cloud Opus 4.6 at 81.5 and MiMo V2 Omni at 81.2. GPT 5.2 sits at 77.0 there, and Gemini 3 Pro is way back at 67.7. So across both core agent benchmarks, MiMo V2 Pro is consistently sitting in the top 3 globally. And honestly, the price gap is what's turning heads the most. MiMo V2 Pro cost $1 per million input tokens and $3 per million output tokens. Cloud Sonnet 4.6 costs $3 input and $15 output. Cloud Opus 4.6 goes for $5 input and $25 output. So you are getting very close to Opus level performance at roughly 1/5 the price. Xiaomi also set cache writing fees to 0 for now, which is a common way to pull in developers who run heavy workloads. They also give out 1 full week of free API access through 5 partner frameworks, including OpenClaw, OpenCode, KillerCode, Blackbox, and Climb. That's a smart move because if developers get used to building with it, they are likely to keep using it once the trial ends. The first major thing to understand about how MiMo V2 Pro works is the hybrid attention design. It uses what they call a 7:1 hybrid ratio, which is a step up from the 5:1 ratio in the previous version. What this means in plain terms is that the model splits its attention between two different ways of processing text. One that's fast and light, and one that's deeper and more thorough. That lets it handle a context window of up to 1 million tokens without everything slowing to a crawl. A million token context means you can paste an entire codebase into it, hundreds of files, and it can work across all of it at once. There is also a feature called multi-token prediction, which lets the model guess several words ahead at the same time instead of one at a time, giving it a speed boost during generation. The second major thing is how they train it for agent tasks specifically. Most AI models are trained mostly on text, then get a little bit of agent training at the end. Xiaomi did something different here. They used reinforcement learning across a wide range of real agent setups, meaning the model practiced actually using tools, following multi-step plans, and calling external functions in complex situations. That's why its tool cost stability and accuracy jumped so much compared to V2 Flash. And when Xiaomi's own engineers ran deep internal tests, they say the overall experience felt close to Cloud Opus 4.6, especially in areas like system design, code style, and finding the most efficient way to solve a problem. Now, here is where it gets really interesting, because MiMo V2 Omni is a completely different beast. This model can see, hear, and act in a single system. It's not three models duct taped together. It has image, video, and audio encoders all fused into one shared backbone, and they all work at the same time. On audio benchmarks, it beat Gemini 3 Pro and can handle more than 10 hours of continuous audio without losing track of what was said. On image understanding, it scored 76.8 on MMMU Pro, going past Cloud Opus 4.6, 73.9. On video, it actually falls short for Gemini 3 Pro. That's one area where Gemini still holds the edge, but on browser.com, the Wave navigation test, it beat both Gemini 3 Pro and GPT 5.2. In fairness, on the general agent benchmark Claw Eval, MiMo V2 Omni scored 54.8, which is behind Cloud Opus 4.6, 66.3, and GPT 5.2's 59.6. So for pure text-based agent tasks, MiMo V2 Pro is actually the stronger choice. Omniscience when you need all the sciences working together, not just reading and writing. That's an honest limitation worth knowing. Now, let's talk about MiMo V2 TTS, the voice model. This one is different from every TTS model out there right now, and the reason is how it handles emotion. Most voice models ask you to pick from a list of emotions, and then they apply that tone to the whole thing. MiMo V2 TTS lets you describe the voice in plain words, and it figures it out. Sleepy, just waking up, slightly hot, sounds different from angry but trying to stay calm, and the model treats them differently. It was trained on over 100 million hours of speech data, which is a massive number. Most TTS systems train on thousands of hours. It also reads your formatting as signals. This is important, comes out with real emphasis, not just louder volume. Repeated characters map to intensity and rhythm. Questions rise and trailing dots fade out naturally. And it's reportedly the only commercially available TTS API that handles both regular speech and singing in the same model, with accurate pitch control, which almost no other TTS system can do. It also supports multiple Chinese dialects. The biggest story here is what Xiaomi is building toward. They have over 16 billion yuan in AI spending already done, and a planned total of 60 billion yuan, which is around $8.7 billion, spread over 3 years. They are not doing this just to release models. They are weaving MiMo directly into their own products. MiMo Studio, Xiaomi Browser, Kingsoft Office, their phone lineup, and eventually their cards and smart home devices all get these models built in. The team has already said publicly that the next things they're working on are long-term planning across hours and days, real-time streaming, multi-agent systems where many instances work together, and full robotics. We believe the path to general intelligence runs through the real world. They wrote, a model that only reads text lives in a library, and a model that sees, hears, reasons, and acts lives in the world. That line kind of says it all, and what I keep coming back to is the price. $1 per million input tokens with performance this close to the top models is a real challenge for Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google to answer. Zibu AI just released GLM5 with 744 billion parameters. Monsoon AI's Kimi K2.5 runs swarms of agents in parallel. Alibaba is expanding Qwen. The Chinese AI wave is not slowing down, and Xiaomi just made a very loud statement about which direction it's heading. That's where we will wrap it up. The part I'm watching now is whether Xiaomi can hold these benchmark rankings once more adversarial tests come in, and whether the robot's roadmap actually arrives on time. Drop your thoughts below. Make sure you are subscribed, hit the like button, and I will see you in the next one.